are, of course, affecting the legal aspects of the project, which is great because then you can, if I don't present them correctly, you can correct me and we have firsthand info from you. Okay, Griff is gonna run a little late, so I would suggest that we start and he will join us hopefully later on. And I'm just gonna kick off with intentions and distractions. As I was telling you, my intention today is to deeply discuss, on top of upgrading you on what's going on the group, but deeply discuss on the legal implications of the latest changes on the development. And I don't have any distractions for the rest of the meeting. So I will pass it to Marina.
Thank you. My intention is to hear more about the latest developments, and I don't have any instructions for now. I'll pass it to Sam.
Hello. Intentions. This is the first time I'm here. I just want to see how you are doing. And for distractions, I think that everything is okay today. Just to I can be focused on the whole. I am going to pass it to Anja.
Hello, Anja. You just jump in.
Yes. Distraction. I just came in. I don't know where I'm at, but yeah, figuring myself out. And intention. Let's get to work. Let's have some fun, just like last time.
Yeah.
Great.
And I don't know who to pass it on. So
there's Septimus and Lawrence missing here. So just go ahead, Septimus.
Hello guys, like my intentions for today are like keep learning, like this is my session and they are so great so far. And yeah, the last time we met on the hacking session, so that was super fun, like really fun. No distractions, and I'll pass it to Lawrence.
Lawrence?
My intentions are to sort of take what we got from the risk document and sort of try to come up with a short list of documents or terms and conditions, because from what I understand, the soft governance working group, they have a deadline of early December to sort of start talking about the launch of the hatch, and they want some supporting documentation to at least show people what expectations are.
Great. Yes, the intention is to have the hatching phase probably going to be in January. Is that correct, Sam? We're probably going to be moving slightly to January. Okay, you're muted.
Yeah. I think that's going to be the idea. We think that we could do that on December still, but probably the other groups, for example, onboarding, would prefer also on January. We are, and we from the tech part, we probably also want to move it slightly to have more time to review the contracts and all that stuff.
Okay, that gives us a little bit more time, but I agree with Lawrence. We got to start discussing the terms. We haven't heard from the lawyers. I had a short message with Chris, who's right now the one managing the contact with the lawyers from the Common Stack Association, and because the idea, as you all know, is to, all the hatchers will become members of the association, and the association will somehow be the entity, the legal entity or the legal umbrella for all the hatchers. And we are still waiting to hear from them. But I would love today to explain you the latest changes for those who don't know them yet or haven't heard them yet, and I would like to have an open discussion on the legal implications and how you guys see them. Okay. So just before last week, the intention was to launch everything together, all the parts of the system together, and the idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, was that when we would have the hatching phase right away after any hatcher or any investor would put their money in, it will go to the bonding curve, and the bonding curve, after we all decided what would be the split between the funding vault and the bonding reserve, the money would be going to those two vaults. And so right away, your tokens might be already becoming more valuable, even though there would be a vesting period of time where you wouldn't be able to sell. So the message somehow was, come join us, because joining us, on top of helping raise the fund to fund token engineering commons projects, your token value is going to increase. Since the technical team is running a little late, they decided to change the schedule and focus initially on the hatching phase. And once we have all the hatchers join, we would launch the bonding curve and the conviction voting. So right now, the message, if you wanna reduce that to one sentence, is put your money here and you're gonna lose it because you're not gonna get anything out of it. After we have all the money from the hatching phase, voting through conviction voting, voting through Dandelion, a Dandelion voting structure, which is just a regular voting system, we will decide that we are launching the bonding curve and what's going to be the parameters of that bonding curve on top of launching the conviction voting. So the decision of increasing the value of the tokens through the parameters of the bonding curve will be decided voting directly from the DAO instead of setting up those parameters from the very beginning and already everyone knowing that for whatever we decide, but that the token that you put here, after a while, it's gonna theoretically be valued that much. Okay, so all the price increase parameters will be decided voting from the DAO. So after these changes take place, we consider that from the legal aspect, that's making things, or somehow that's making things easier in terms of responsibility, because we are not promising you any price increase of your or value increase of your token. What we are selling you is come join us and donate, and on your donation, we're going to give you a token that's going to have the rights of voting, and that's all we're giving you on the initial hatching phase. Is that correct, Sam?
Yes, actually the initial idea from tech was we don't want to delay. The conviction voting and bonding curve are getting delayed, but we don't want to delay the hatch. So what we can do is just begin with the hatch, and meanwhile the hatch is being done, we can still work on the other things, and we include them later. And for me at the beginning was like, I don't know if that's going to be good for legal. But when I talked with Griff said that's perfect for legal, because then what we have is just a fundraising in which you don't expect, as you was telling, you don't expect any profit. You are actually you actually don't lose your money either. You lose part of your money. We have to decide which part goes to the funding pool, because that is a donation to the funding pool, to the commons. but the other money you can still get it if you want. Because what we are going to set up at the beginning is a Dandelion DAO, which is very similar to the Moloch DAO, in which you can put your money and you can redeem the tokens that you obtain. Again, so you put them and obtain tokens, but you can also burn those tokens to get back your money. That's the idea. At the beginning, the fundraising will raise the money, but if you want to go out, you can go out, except for the part that is going to be sent to the funding pool. That part is like a donation. It can be a 20%, 30%. We still don't know, depending on which parameters we set up. We will know which part goes to the funding pool and which part people will not be able to recover if they decide to go out before all the second launch of the DAO. There are going to be 2 launches, one with the hatch and another one with the other 2 applications, the banding curve and conviction voting. And in that first part between the 2 launches, people can go out of the DAO, recovering part of their money, and after that, they will have the bonding curve, which for the first people to sell, I mean, it's going to value a lot more the token, but at the same time, it's under collateralized. That's important. That means that we are not creating money of nowhere. The thing is that the value of the token is much more because because we are expecting not everyone is going to remove the value of the reserve. It's like, well, basically it's an under collateralized token, and I think that it's all. So first phase, we have a kind of bonding curve that gives you the same token, that it's completely collateralized. It's not a bonding curve, it's called redemption swap. It's a part in which you can recover the money that you put, except the one that you donated. And in the second part, there are other mechanisms. The main mechanism is going to be the bonding curve, and there is also another mechanism that is the redemptions, in which you can also, in the case that the funding pool is very, very full of money, maybe it's better for you to get that money from there, redeem your tokens based on that price here, which may be higher. That's not going to happen probably, but it's a way that we have in order to, in the case that the funding pool has a lot of money, we can also redeem from there. Maybe that is not completely needed to explain.
Okay, but that's after the second phase.
Yeah. And that first phase, I guess that the main idea is you put together the funds. Some funds goes to another place that you are not going to recover, but you can remove them if, and that's the important thing. If you vote yes on a vote, your tokens are going to be locked. So you cannot vote yes and then leave. If you vote yes, you are there until the end of the vote. You cannot redeem your tokens, for example. So if people is voting for something that you don't want, you can, and the vote passes, but you didn't put yes, then you have some time in order to redeem the tokens that you have for DAI and leave the DAO. That's how Dandelion works. If you say yes, your tokens are locked during a time, and the people who said no or didn't say anything, they can leave.
Okay.
Is
Hello,
it good?
Griff. We are. Is it? Do you guys get a clear picture of the process?
Yes, I think I have just one question. Is there a document where all these things are written down?
There is one post that Griff created on the forum. If you go to the agenda, there is a link in the agenda linking to
Okay.
that post where there is a video on the self-governance meeting that we had on Tuesday, and that's when Griff introduced all these changes to some of us after he had the meeting on Monday with a technical working group, and there's the video there on top of the text that he wrote on the forum, so you can get an idea of how that works.
That
Hello,
said,
Griff, go ahead.
Sam, there might be a better documentation of Dandelion because I didn't really talk about the details of redemptions and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's a very standard process. It's the same thing MolekDAO uses. It's the exact same process. The only difference here is that we would take a discount at the beginning of whatever the hash tribute percentage is. They wouldn't be able to redeem that. So they'd put money in at a loss to start.
There's one question after listening to Sam that I didn't get quite clear. Let's imagine that no one leaves. Okay, everyone joins the hatch phase, and no one redeems their tokens. Everyone's happy with going into the bonding curve and the conviction voting. Now we launch the bonding curve, but part of the money, part of the funds have gone to the funding vault. Okay, and part of the funds are there to back the bonding curve. But if we raise the value of the token, and next day everyone wants to sell against the bonding curve, there's not going to be enough reserves, right?
All the tokens will be vested, so they'll
Okay.
all be locked. Everyone who has a token, they will not be able to sell into the bonding curve for some amount of time. We call it the vesting cliff period.
Okay.
So
And it's a matter of time, or it's a matter of the amount of money that gets in backing the bonding curve because additional purchases come in, or we can do
I think
both.
for it's time for now. I mean, there's a dream of making it more complicated, but
Mhm.
for now, this launch, just time.
Okay. Okay, so
you realize that once you use words like vesting cliff and lock type things, it suddenly starts looking like a investment scheme, and that will potentially send alarm bells to SEC. So you just have to be very careful of your wording. If it is a donation and you can't take that donation back, then you have to make that very clear in all the documentation.
right, I agree, but that's on the second phase of the project. So in the very first stage, all you're saying is if you join, you get some governance tokens, money, but part of that money is going to be a donation, and that's it. That's the message that we are giving away to anyone who wants to join the hatching phase. It's
So
after
so you're saying that the rest of the money is a temporary loan? Is that how you're describing it?
temporary what?
Loan.
I wouldn't say it's a loan. It's more like a putting money in a pot while still having like agency over it. It's kind of
Yeah.
it's not really a loan.
I
You're
understand
putting
that.
it there.
In
Yeah.
a trust, it would be considered you're giving a loan and the trust is offering a debt, but then you can write off that debt at any point in the future. So it's still legally considered a loan, but you can gift it by writing it off.
Maybe. I definitely don't know the details around what would be a loan exactly in
A
this
loan
case.
is a legal obligation. So if there's anything in the documentation which is that there's a binding obligation to pay it back some point in the future, I mean, even if it is considered a debt.
Yeah, I guess you could consider it like that.
You have to be very careful. That's why this is why it's called the legal working group, because yeah, it's called functional equivalent. If it looks like a debt, acts like a debt, then all the authorities will say if you promise to pay, then if you don't have the money, you could be trading while insolvent, and therefore the company could be put into administration. That's why you have to be very careful with the terminology.
Yeah, we usually just call it a tribute. That's the terminology we like to use.
I know, but calling it a different name doesn't escape how it performs. If you've got an obligation, that's a contract.
And we are also was thinking on calling it locked tokens instead of vested tokens, because it's more clear also.
Yeah, there's no vesting. It's really just locking.
I have another question. When are we going to be able to vote? So in the first phase, you are donating. What is going to be the function of my token is going to be that I will be able to vote. When is this going to be possible for me after I'm donating?
You will receive tokens based on, well, actually the hatch phase is going to be determined by some time. Maybe it's a month, or we will see. And at the end of the hatch, we reach the max goal that we have still have to decide which the max goal will be. It could be less than the period, but normally what we are going to have is that at the end of the period, we will, if we have raised a mean goal list, then we mint all the tokens. And if not, we return the money to all the people who they can claim the money back.
And so when you reach the goal, at that moment I can vote.
There'll still be a time. Would you be able to vote?
When you are at the end of the hatch, you receive the tokens. Well, there is a kind of action that you have to say, okay, that's the end of the hatch, being tokens to everyone. But once you have the tokens, you are able to vote. The thing is that who is going to be able to create votes? What we were thinking is anybody can create the vote, but they have to pay a very high fee, because we want that to be decentralized. So it didn't seem correct to have a single entity that can create votes. It can be anybody with paying, for example, I don't know, 100 dice for creating the vote, something like that.
Okay, because many times I think it was especially the Swiss regulation that was saying that after something similar to ICOs, that if the token is a utility, it needs to be the person that has it needs to be able to use it immediately after it bought it. So that's also important.
Okay, and what does exactly mean? Because
no, it just means that there were a lot of ICOs that said, give me the money and we'll develop, things in the future, and in 1 year you could use your token. And then they said that no, it's important that after the ICO or whatever kind of funding you're doing, the token holders can use the token.
Well, they will be able to create votes and vote.
And withdraw.
It means that it's already developed and there's a system behind that, and that I can use the token for what it was designed.
Exactly as the same system that will be used to vote. Yes. We might not want to vote until 1 month later, but
But the
But we
system
still
will be ready.
don't know when the second part of the system will be ready. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to hear everyone's idea or sense or concerns about this new schedule that we are thinking on. Well, not thinking. We are almost already going for.
Okay, hey,
Any
I'll start.
concerns? Okay.
I think that it's still a stretch to say that, like, oh, we're in the clear now, because we're still going to say, hey, there's an expectation that we will pass this bonding curve vote, right? And we're going to still be giving people that expectation. So I don't think we're in the clear path that is like, yeah, we're good. But I think we went from like darker gray to lighter gray. And I think I would consider it a win, but I'm very excited to hear what other people think. Anja? Oh, you're muted, Anja.
I'm still muted? I unmuted myself. The hell? Do you hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Yep, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if it makes sense at all to call it a donation because, like, a duck quacks. So, if it's a duck and it sounds like a duck, no point in calling it a donation. Not even like part of it. Because if nothing else, I do have the expectations that I'm going to be using these tokens and I'm going to be voting and I'm going to have the rights to vote. So one question would be, what happens if I don't have those rights to vote? If I all of a sudden don't get the tokens and I provided the money? So if there's going to be some sort of expectations on the other side, and this obviously is not a donation, but otherwise, I mean, I do like the idea of donation, and I would be even up to write like an article about how donations also have some sort of expectations, because every time we donate to someone, we do expect that this donation is going to be, used in bona fide, and that it's going to be used for whatever reasons we followed together with those people that we donated to. So there's always some certain expectations. It's just the matter of fact whether we recognize those expectations legally or not, and whether those are providing me with certain rights and obligations or not. And here, I kind of have a feeling that because we are providing somebody with the voting rights, there's still some sort of expectations that are legally recognized, and it's not equity. I do, for that reason, however, love the idea of calling it a loan, and then having the forgiveness clause in the initial terms and conditions, because that means that everybody reads those terms, everybody knows that a certain amount of that loan is going to be forgiven, meaning that we are basically making it a donation. And I would love to hear more people expressing their opinions about the convertible loans. So this loan is basically going to be converted not to equity that much, but really just to the tokens that I can use for voting system. That's my first impression.
I would like to hear Dr. Laura about this and his opinion, because like I was working for a company that was basically doing crowd investing, and it was very similar to what we had right now. And I know all the legal hurdles and everything that we had to do in order for people to be able to actually they were lending the money to startups, and then they just said, okay, after 5 or 10 years you'll get your money back, and then you'll get a percentage of the equity of how much the equity got bigger during that time. So actually we made it in a way that it was not possible for them to say that it was a security or a financial instrument. But this doesn't solve all the problems, because we had to comply with so many other things. So I don't want to be very negative right now, but I think that it sounds like something similar to that. It sounds like a similar instrument.
You are correct. I mean, crowdsourcing can also include donating to causes, and platforms can specialize in that. You can donate, for startup equity, or you can donate to a cause.
I don't think I understood what you said, but this specifically was not a donation. There was a loan.
I know. I mean, all I can say is that crowdsourcing can include non-profit causes.
Of course, yeah, but I mean, crowdsourcing or crowdfunding, it's not a legal term, you know that. So it can be whatever we call it non-legally, but then we need to see what is actually, like you were saying, what is its function, and then to translate it in legal form.
This is actually a fairly deep topic, and I have consulted on it. How about we can table this, because all I can say is that getting a crowdfunding license will help this activity in the medium term. But for now, it's complicated. So can we table it and get someone to look into the requirements for getting a crowdfunding license?
Yeah, I mean, I can do that for Europe. I know there was another change in the Jobs Act in the US for that.
I hate to be a buzzkill, but I don't think we're going to go through any efforts to actually obtain a license. I'm just going to throw that out there.
We don't need any license. It's a thing that we don't need a license. But of course, I mean, all of us need to agree on what's important right now. And I don't think I have a clear picture to actually, say anything about that.
I would like, if you have experience in crowdfunding and crowdsourcing, Marina, I think the key difference between what we're gonna do and someone launching a crowdfunding, whatever, is that in a crowdfunding project, there is a company or there is an individual who's asking for money to do something and promising something, whatever. Here, we're asking you to join. We are not a company, and we are not deciding anything as a company. It's the whole DAO, the one that's going to decide what to do with that money. Of course, we have a roadmap defined, but at the end of the day, it has to be voted by the DAO. It's not the company, because there is no company. It's every one of us voting through a proposal that someone will put together that's going to vote. And for instance, if we put a proposal and we decide in the proposal that the vesting period, we can call it a different term, but the vesting period is going to be a month, the proposal may not pass, and someone else may put another proposal and say that exactly it's same terms, but with a longer vesting period. At the end of the day, it's all of us. There's no one entity asking for money to do something, promising what you will get back from your money. There's an entity saying, hey, come here, join us. When you join, part of your money is gonna be used for this, so you'll lose it. And part of your money will still be here to become part of the DAO. And on behalf of that, we're gonna give you the tokens to vote or to propose anything that we all can vote. And
It makes sense to
the
actually have, based on what you just said, it would kind of make sense that we really use that as a donation. Everybody donates their funds, and only once the money is collected, there is like all of the people coming together, whomever can propose who gets the tokens and whom not. And it's almost like if there would be legal entities created for that, that would be one legal entity, and then there would be another entity formed, and that another entity then distributes the tokens. So that would be a legal solution if there would be a solution going for legal entities. Because I mean, if the money is being collected and nobody actually has the expectations, not even that the tokens are going to be obtained, I can give you the money, whatever you need to do with them. Then, we collectively decide these are the people that really need that funding. This is the amount of money that goes to reserves. That makes sense. I mean, why not?
I think that whatever we are talking right now, it would go really well on the document we were working on this week, and then try to understand, what does this mean for the whole project.
Actually, what we are doing is it's a smart contract that, based on how much people donated, means the tokens for everyone. And it's somebody who just press a button. It's nobody who is giving the. I mean, it's already written before. It's determined before, and this is how the contract works. We could have two contracts: one to raise money and another one to. In that case, it will be an airdrop to give away money, give away tokens based on those things. But the problem with that, I think that it's more problematic that way, because we will have a DAO that is controlled by no one, and from a perspective that
by everyone.
It's somebody has to control the DAO. So if it's not everyone that has voted, we have a problem, because who is going to control it? I mean, if it's no one who has contributed to the fundraising, then somebody has to control what is going with the DAO. The easy way to think on that is people obtain tokens based on how much they contributed. So now they can decide together what to do with that money. If they are two different entities, that's not that decentralized, because there is somebody who is giving tokens. It's not automatic. And if it's somebody who is giving tokens, it's worth. I think. I don't know.
I would say that we're pretty good with the first entity. We have this common stack association. It's designed specifically for this and has had lawyers review terms and conditions that say, like, the people who build it, they're protected. They all have to actually legally become members of this association. So it's like legal shield, and the association is the one deploying it. And that's okay. We'll still probably use Tornado Cash and deploy it like all cool and stuff, but it's okay. We can say the Common Stack Association is responsible for the hatch. The cool thing is the hatch is, at least there's not a guarantee of profits. There's not a guarantee that this you put in $100 and you get a token that's worth less than that. So there's actually an expectation of loss at the beginning. And then after that, the token holders will vote to do something with their funds that will actually under collateralize the funds, the token that they have, basically, right? Creating the bonding curve as almost like a fractional reserve lending thing. That's what the bonding curve looks like. It's an under collateralized token backing. So now they've basically, they went from something the Common Stack launched to something they decided independently from the Common Stack that launched it. And now that's where I see the new entity being, is when, okay, now we're going to incorporate this new technology as a group. We made that decision, and now we're a new DAO. And then that's the Token Engineering Commons doing their thing. We didn't hear from Zeptimus or Craig or really Santi either. I don't know. Santi, did you want to say anything?
Well, I think I'm not a legal expert here. Since we are in a legal working group, I like listening to to the ones that have legal experience here. But when I mentioned before, I see a big difference between anything that's already legal or that's been taking place before, because there's always an entity. Right here, there's not gonna be an entity. It's gonna be software. And what Griff mentioned, I don't know if you are aware of what Tornado Cash is, which basically is a way to deploy your smart contract in the blockchain without anyone knowing who the hell deployed that there. Okay, so it's gonna be really impossible to know who deployed the software, and the software is gonna be there running on its own. Once it's running, we will all decide what to do voting using that piece of software that will be there deployed. So there's no way, there's no legal entity. Even if you want to try to find it, there's no way. It's air.
I just have to say that by law, if there's no entity, the assumption is that it defaults to a business partnership, which has tax implications. So even if we say there's no legal entity, by default, the court will assume that it's a partnership.
Right, I agree with that, and that's in legacy legal terms, because there's always someone behind what's taking place. But right here, there is no way to know who's behind there. You will be able to know who's got tokens because they put the money in, all right. But you won't be. I mean, if you wanna try to find the responsibility behind there, you're gonna have. It's gonna be the token holders who are the same that put the money in.
Yes, but once it is defined as a convertible virtual currency, then all the anti-money laundering laws come in. You cannot escape that.
Mm-hmm.
Zeptimus, did you have any thoughts on this from what you've heard?
Yeah, I don't know the legal terms, but for me, when you say like it's a donation, like for me, like legally, it's better, because if you are saying like someone you're going to have more funds, I mean, also that you maybe you make people hatch, like I don't know the words right now. Maybe you get hatchers you don't want, but also like then legally it seems they can take more action than if it's just a donation. I mean, I don't know the legal terms, but if it's a donation, you should not have problems at all. That's what my common sense says, but I don't know legally. But yeah.
So if you donate to a terrorist
the SEC
organization, you
cannot
don't
do
have a
anything.
problem?
Well,
Sorry?
yeah, I understand now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Florence, you were saying
Remember,
something.
if it's
Sorry,
a
I
gift, then by definition, it's not an investment, and therefore SEC and the EU cannot regulate it.
Can you repeat that, Lawrence?
If it is a gift or a contribution, then by definition, it's not an investment, and therefore it cannot be regulated by SEC or the EU virtual assets.
That's right, but it's still, I mean, if it's a donation, you still need to pay taxes on it.
Depending on the amount of money donated.
It's not a security, but it's still regulated.
Well, yeah, I mean, the individual needs to pay taxes on their income still. Even we're not going to be a like official donation, so they won't get a rebate there. But then when it's in the non-legal entity, effectively, like it's got to be difficult. Which jurisdiction is going to decide that? Oh, this is ours. Like, is Switzerland going to be like, oh no, that's us? You know, like. I don't know. It gets a little dicey.
Yeah, it gets dicey when you don't have a legal entity.
Yeah.
There were clear rules about that, and it was also like, I think that the thing that we were discussing last time regarding Aragon and the other projects, it was just because of that. Like, they were suing, and they have been sued just because they wanted to establish what law are they going to use in this dispute?
Yeah, I mean, the really nice thing is, like, I think that we're going to keep this small. This is not going to raise millions of dollars, maybe $1 million, maybe, if we're lucky. Okay, like, we're not going to try to make it really big, and we're also, you know, we're trying to fund research. I think that the fact that we are building economies around public goods gives us a lot of leeway in the gray area. I don't think any agency is going to say, you know what, these are the guys I'm going to start with. I'm going to make a point against these guys. You know, like, no, you know, we're not. It's not like we're a Ponzi scheme or we're trying to, you know, just do DeFi money to make money games. We're trying to fund research in a new field of study. So I think we can take more risks. It's good to talk about them, of course, and make sure we know them. But I still feel optimistic. That's what I'm saying.
Marina, is the $5 million the minimum that you have to?
Yeah, in Europe, it's
Europe.
hard. I mean, 5 million is for crowdfunding. So this is a crowdfunding. I think it was a directive that was just, yeah, like, I think it was issued like a month ago or something. But for crypto assets, the one that is not already in place, it's just 1 million.
Just 1 million. Okay. Okay.
Exemption.
Unless they don't know if there's a legal entity, which we don't have to worry about the law.
We can add 1 million as the max goal, right? When defining the parameters, 1 million is probably going to be the max. If it should not be over that, right? That recommendation from legal.
If we are using DAI, it's gonna be less than €1 million because the dollar is below the euro.
I would say the possible, you know, the least money we make, the best would be in the legal point of view. Like 1 million max.
The real thing is we got to decide what funding we need to start out. So it's you know, there's a lot of little entry points. So it's like, how much money do we want in the funding pool? You know, and is this million? Does the funding pool count towards that million? You know, like, I don't know. I would hope that it doesn't. It would be nice if it didn't. You know, if it was like the million was restricted just to the bonding curve as the max.
That's a good question. I would assume that the regulators would go with a stricter position, so everything, not just what has been invested into the bonding curve, would be looked at together. And then if it supersedes the million, then it would fall under the regulation, but who knows?
Yeah.
Also, one stupid question, but I mean, I'm not sure if that was ever addressed, but is there a multisig? Like, is there a group of people that is going to have the access to all the funds, or? So it really is a question whether there's going to be like no one being responsible for the funding or everyone. It's those two extremes. Wow. Okay.
We still have to figure out a way that is more decentralized for the specific administration of the bonding. The specific administration of the conviction voting, because we have some roles for canceling proposals, updating parameters. No, actually not. Specifically for canceling proposals. That's not acceptable, so we have to cancel it before it passes. And that we have used in one Hive. We have used like multisigs or individual addresses.
I mean, can when we launch it, can that permission be empty and be assigned after launch?
Yes.
That's been the decentralized pattern is like, I don't know. I really like escape hatches personally. Like, that's just me. I'm a big fan. But you launch without one, but with a plan to add one, and then the person who has it is a service provider, not a centralized authority. That's the.
Actually, this is going to be included in the vote for upgrading. So it's going to be. Maybe there is a very important thing to discuss here. Well, two things. I know that we are already finished, but there are two ways to migrate to the second phase. One is installing the new apps into the same DAO, and the other way around is to send the token to a new DAO. It's very technical. It's something like it's very technical. Nobody is going to see that. They are not going to be using the exact same smart contracts directly. The websites are going to be the same. Everything is going to be the same. But the thing is that I don't know how it interacts with legal. If we are installing new apps, it's just a vote in the same DAO. Everywhere, everything is the same. We just change parameters with Dandelion voting. If we migrate the token to a new DAO, then this DAO has to be made by someone. So maybe we have the same problem that we had before.
And also
But-
migration needs to be mandated by someone. What you're saying, what you're explaining here, like I see two things that are happening. Somebody still will allocate the tokens to people. So somebody will create those smart contracts, and then somebody would still migrate these tokens to a new DAO. And yes, of course, somebody would need to create a new DAO first. But whomever does the migration, whomever sets out the parameters, whomever actually says or provides these orders to be happening, that person actually can be held accountable for whatever goes wrong.
Is that true even if there's a vote? Like the vote is what instigates it? Yes, someone had to propose it, but the vote was actually instigated by the DAO.
Well, there's possible, yeah, that opens up a bunch of different solutions or a bunch of different questions, right? If there was one vote, nobody knew about it, and there was one person that actually voted, who's responsible? One person?
I mean,
Possibly the one that...
yeah. Sorry if I'm interrupting, Anja.
No, go ahead, because that was, I think, explanatory.
Yeah, I mean, usually those things are defined in, statutes of organizations or different contracts. So you know exactly how many votes you need in order for this decision to be legitimate, blah, blah, blah. So are we going to have any of those, documents or rules written down anywhere or not? Yeah, like so many questions.
And even before Sam or Grief, I don't know who said that, but like there was a proposal on the table to make very high barriers on who can actually propose a vote in the first place. So if you put like a very, very high barrier that only allows two people to actually propose the votes, then again, possibly
It would be a high cost, not a high barrier. So it'd be like, to propose a vote, it costs you $100, but anyone can propose a vote.
Yeah, that's good. That's fine.
I mean, we might even make it so that anyone can propose a vote if we want, so that like you don't even have to be part of the DAO to propose a vote to the DAO, and then Tornado Cash proposes the vote. Right?
But just because
you are super smart, but we are recording that for YouTube.
That's fine. It's just an idea. Ideas aren't illegal.
It's Tornado Cash.
Gosh, man. Well, I want to give Craig a chance to say something. I haven't heard him talk the whole time.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I'm completely out of my realm here, and I'm listening and learning so much. This is just a super important conversation. So I'm listening, and I don't have anything of substance. This is awesome, though.
Okay.
Well, we hit the top of the hour. So, Santi, any final words,
Yeah.
Santi?
No, I just I think it's a great conversation and a great discussion. It was great to have Sam here because he could give us a bunch of details that I guess most of us didn't know, and we will just have to first try to get as soon as possible the terms from the lawyers to see if we start from there, and finally go through every of these single steps that we have to go through to at least identify the risk we may be jumping into, and of course when we define the features or the terms or the parameters of the hatching phase, try to put them so at least we are under 1 million and under these little barriers or limits that keep us a little safer in case they try to go after whatever legal entity they can find behind the DAO. All right. If there's anyone else who wants to add, sure, Septimus.
I was wondering, like what Anja says, like how we make it that legal possibly, like we are funding public goods and not terrorists. Like, yeah, that's actually a thing. To like, what should we work on? Like, yeah.
Yeah. I posted the terms and conditions in the legal group, or at least they're still pending final review, but.
Okay, so it'd be great if we can take a look at them and maybe start the discussion from those next week. All right.
Absolutely.
Anyone else want to add anything else here? Oh.
Yeah, my final thoughts on what has been said today is that it helps a lot in terms of how, for example, regulations work or how they apply on the project if we already have a very good voting process in our mind, because then it's much easier for a lawyer to say, okay, this resembles the cooperative structure, or okay, this resembles the I don't know, LLC structure, or this resembles a typical ICO structure, or this really resembles the loan, or this really resembles the donation. The voting is very important here. So the more we know about the voting processes, like who's going to have the ability to say when the voting is going to be possible, or who's going to be having responsibility on how the voting is actually taking place, who's going to have the ability to vote, when that happens, and how the tokens are going to be distributed in the first place. Those are all very relevant questions, and I'm more than happy to discuss them alongside while it's being developed.
All right. We'll have to keep an eye on legal to get at least get to discuss all those details when we have them ready from you guys.
Next week we get to live it, so we can test it. We can put money into a DAO. And you'll feel it.
That's
All
right.
right.
I will try to document everything so it's better for discussion later. Okay.
All right. I thank you all, you guys.
It's
Have a great weekend.
Bye, you too.
I will see you next week.